Hello and welcome back to RageGamingVideos. My name is Olo and today I'm back with another build. This is the Meteor Blade build. This beautiful katana that is woefully underused despite the fact that it has a really cool effect and a really cool design. Not just on the blade itself, which looks pretty cool with its meteor filled pebbles on it, but also its very unique scabbard. I mean, look at that. You can tell which one's which. The Meteoric Ore Blade, then, is one of the few weapons that actually uses the Gravitas Ashes of War. Those are, of course, the AoE slams with that gravity magic involved. It's also a physical and magical weapon, so we're able to buff this up in a lot of ways. And because it's a katana, it comes with Bloodlust buildup, which lets us do some certain things. Now, while its scaling isn't particularly good, the potential of this weapon in terms of buffing cannot be understated. We may start with a measly 711 AR, but now check again as we're fully buffed up with our 1296 on a one-hand katana. That is ridiculous. So it's got the awesome AoE Ash of War, it has some serious power with the AR when buffed up, and it also comes with a unique heavy attack, which I've not seen on any other katana. This heavy attack can actually be comboed into a quick second hit, and it does serious damage and stagger and poise break because, yeah, it's a heavy attack. So, as you can see, we have Bleed, which we can hype up with various equipment. We have a unique heavy attack, which is very powerful, which we can buff up in various ways as well. We have an awesome Ash of War that is great for crowd control, as well as a shocking amount of single target damage. I was hitting over 1k with this thing in many examples, even in PvP. And it's funny, it's so strong you can, I mean, legitimately just spam it in boss fights if you time it well, and just completely clear while spamming just with that one ability. And then we can't forget that we're also power stancing katanas here. So we have the Katana power stance moveset, which is really good in PvP especially, where you're able to send out an attack and then an attack and attack. Rather than both attacks at once, you stagger the hits, meaning you're more likely to catch in a trade or, of course, a roll catch, which is what makes it so good. And then little benefits like the backward step, power stance katana attack. It's all good. Let me explain how this build works then. So, we have the Meteoric Ore Blade, which is our core of the build, right? The C in, the C strength, the D dex. This is something that we don't really need to put a lot of stats in, but it actually gets the most value out of strength, surprisingly. Our backup weapon, the Uchi Katana, fits well, and we've got it in Bleed. Pushes its Bloodlust buildup up towards the hundreds. This comes with no shock, the Seppuku Ash of War, which is going to increase our AR, and also increase the rate at which you build up that Bloodlust buildup. Naturally, anytime you're doing anything with Bleed, you want to use the White Mask, and of course the Lord of Blood's Exaltation. These both increase your attack power when Bleed occurs, and so when you actually use Seppuku on yourself, that triggers this AR boost, therefore the Meteoric Blade is also getting that AR. Now, as I said, this is also that unique heavy attack that we're using when relevant in PvE or PvP, so the Axe Talisman is going to enhance the power of that attack, as well as the Spike Crack Tear from my Wondrous Physic. That's going to do the same thing. Now, because this is a physical and magical weapon, we want to boost that magical damage where possible, so the Wondrous Physic comes in again with the Magic Shrouding Crack Tear. That's going to boost our magic attacks temporarily, and also there's the Magic Scorpion Charm, which makes us take a bit more damage, but will also raise our magic attack. This is ideal in PvE because that damage negation is not really that relevant. In PvP though, different story. If you are running this build in PvP, I definitely recommend you do not run damage negation. It means you get one shot or take way more damage. So while the extra damage is nice, I always recommend something like the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman or Pearl Drake Talisman, depending on whether you're dealing with physical or magical in PvP. Everything else is purely cosmetic though, and we just have a seal to cast our two incantations. It should come as no shock to you then that the two buffs that we're running to increase our AR are of course Golden Vow and as well Flame Grant Me Strength, which both increase your physical damage, and Golden Vow here will also increase our physical resistance, which is very nice. As you can see though, we have that ridiculous AR when fully buffed. I admit, there's quite a lot of buffs running here, and that means we've got some interesting stats. 60 Vigor is kind of required to survive in PvP these days. We have 16 Mind to get us to exactly 100 FP, so we can get the most out of our various FP costing abilities. 17 Endurance for the armor I'm wearing. 50 Strength, as I said, you're going to get the most AR out of Strength, more than Dex or Intelligence here, which is interesting. Now, my offhand weapon is just basically a Bleed Stick, but I've given it 30 Dex because it benefits the most with its B Dex scaling. We have 24 Intelligence and 25 Faith. The 25 Faith, so we can use our various buffs, and the 24 Intelligence is just overcapping on the 18 we need. Let's talk about how I felt about this in PvP. It was kind of interesting. I had so many options that it took me quite a while to work out what was the best in what scenario. For example, that heavy attack, you can really catch people out with that thing. Obviously, it's going to do a lot of damage, but it comes out slow and it's not got major range. But if you have it as a mix-up, where they're not really expecting that sudden shift in timing, and also you're raising your weapon over your head, they don't know what's happening here. This is a really rare attack. I've never seen this until I used this weapon. So it worked as a mix-up during trades or roll catching, and obviously it does a lot of damage when it does hit, which feels incredible. When it comes to the Ash of War, it's interesting. It's able to pull someone in at such comical range that's so funny when they're pulled in, but they're usually able to roll out quickly. So when you do get that pull in with the Ash of War, I wouldn't recommend just immediately attacking. Instantly sprinting after them and then going for a roll catch is probably the much better option, and that is a really good feeling thing to do. But the Ash of War has two parts to it. A hit on the initial attack where you slam down, and then the sort of explosive pull in that does damage too. If you're able to hit both of these, you do serious damage. You're not always going to do that in PvP, but when you do, my god, the damage. I think I hit someone for over 1,400 with both. And then the area control you can do with it. It does catch people out. The pull-in is longer range than people seem to expect, so you can ship them out a little bit. Or during trading, you can put yourself just out of range of their attacks and throw that out, and you'll catch them in a panic roll. So overall, I found this a really interesting playstyle because I had so many options to choose between, depending on what my opponent was doing. And whenever I reached the point where, okay, it's mind games time, I felt that I had a lot of options, which I might not always have in other builds that are more single-minded around one specific gimmick or style. However, that does mean you can kind of outplay yourself with this, so do be careful and know that you need to be smart when you have this many options and how to best use them. For PvE, let me just show you the power of, say, the Ash of War and the heavy attack. Starting with, let's go with the heavy attack. So, I mean, yeah, it's very strong. I was gonna do like the follow-up attack, and he just died. And then here we are with the AoE slam, so just a little bit less. The difference here is obviously you have better range. So I make sure to hit with the initial downward slam there, and then the AoE. We have just under 2,000 damage. The benefit there is obviously we have the ability to do that at range, which obviously the heavy attack can't do. But the heavy attack has the second follow-up, so that's serious damage, obviously. The damage output of this build is shockingly high. I was so surprised by that 1,200 plus AR when I looked at it the first time. And the fact that we have bleed as well. Obviously, if an enemy, most bosses, they're vulnerable to bleed, you are just going to burst them into oblivion with the base L1 spam. If we overly rely on the Ash of War, we have range potential, stagger potential, because it can also cause that stagger and critical hits. And that's great range, that's great quick DPS output, and more if you're like up against the enemy spamming it and landing that downward slam. The heavy attack is just always good and very easy to pull out, especially in combo. That's also going to cause the staggers and then the critical hits. Having this many options and them all being that strong just feels great in PvE. So if you're interested in a different Katana style of play here, this is where you get everything. Starting with the Meteoric or Blade. This comes from Caelid Waypoint Ruins. It's very easy, quite near to the Astray from Caelid Highway Northgrace. You just enter the ruins, go down the staircase that leads down, and yeah, very quickly you'll be looting a chest with the blade inside of it. The Uchi Katana is another easy one. We can get this by picking the Samurai starting class, or you can go to the Death Touched Catacombs here in North Limgrave, just next to the Saint's Bridge Grace, and you'll find the Katana in there. It's quite easy to find because it's on the way to where you need to go defeat the boss. The White Mask, of course, comes from the invasion that occurs while you are in the Mogwin area. When you're on the left side of the swamp over here, you will be invaded, and you just have to defeat the invaders to get the mask and the surgeon set. But this must be done before you go defeat the area boss, so keep that in mind. The Axe Talisman is another easy one, thankfully. This comes from the Mistwood Ruins. You just need to go down the staircase where there's a sleeping bear and loot it in a chest. It's that easy. The Shard of Alexander, as always, comes from the Alexander storyline and is the reward for completing the full storyline. You just have to ultimately do the whole thing, and eventually you'll fight Alexander, and when you win, you get the shard. The Lord of Blood's Exaltation is another straightforward one in concept, but this one requires a bit of awkwardness. You'll need to make your way to the subterranean shunning grounds under Lindell. You can go here even after Lindell changes, fortunately. You just have to make your way down to the catacombs in there and defeat the boss of that catacombs. Last but not least, the Magic Scorpion Charm to increase our magic attack at the cost of damage negation. This is a simple reward from Celevis, who is part of the Rani group and Rani storyline. As you progress that storyline, just make sure to speak to Selvis and do whatever he tells you so you end up liking each other. I would recommend a guide on this topic so that you do not overly progress Ranni's storyline and ruin Selvis's storyline, but it's not too bad if you do that. Lastly, we have the Magic Shrouding crack tier and the Spiked crack tier. Both are relatively easy. For the Spiked, we just need to go to this minor Erd tree and pick it up. There's not even a Guardian in East Limgrave. And then for the Magic one, we need to go to this minor Erd tree and defeat the Guardian here. This is in the northeastern point of the lake region, very much near to the Mausoleum Compound Grace. But there you have it. That is my guide on this build, the Meteor Heavy Blade build. It's a really cool weapon, and I'm really glad that I had the chance through this series to actually use it. People have been telling me about it for a while, that maybe it's a little bit underrated, and I can definitely see why after that AR buffing. It's a really fun one to use, and definitely requires a higher skill level in PvP, which is always fun. Shout out and thank you, of course, to Josh for coming up with the builds on the channel as usual. He's a build machine, and of course, full credit to him. If you have enjoyed the video, please drop a like so we can keep making more build videos like this. Otherwise, for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.